Let's get into the philosophy and talk about what the TEX-BONE is and how it works. And as I've mentioned, it's triple option for the 21st century. It's a marriage of triple option that spread that happened organically, where after we'd finally merged them together, we looked at each other and like, why didn't we do this earlier? But it's become something that's really unique and it has a lot of advantages. It's triple option schemes for non-traditional option alignments. It's added versatility in where you can put your dive back and where you can put your pitch back and what you can do with your quarterbacks, the style of quarterbacks you can have, a lot of advantages to this. Spread defensive philosophies provide predictable alignments. And here's what I mean. High schools, for example, you're going to have trade film. And you're going to get a couple tapes, depending on what your conference is, 2 tapes, maybe get the whole season. But you're going to have an idea, a really good idea, of what your opponent's going to do. How do they line up to 3-by-1 open? How do they line up to 2-by-2 open and 2-by-1 open? And do they put the 3 technique to the tight end? You're going to know all these things because every team has a spread defensive philosophy because that's what they're playing against every week. You're going to be able to take this knowledge and use it to your advantage by applying triple option to that, which makes you unpredictable to defend. Because he talked about having both spread and triple option elements, which you'll see as you dive into the TEX-BONE system. Every play could be spread or option-based. There's not a tip-off by what formation you're in. For example, we'll run power read, a traditional one-back play from FlexBone, and we'll run option from 3-by-1 open or 2-by-2 open or 2-by-1 open or with a tight end. That's some unpredictability that can be a really big advantage for your football team. There's some modern advances to these time-tested schemes that eliminate some limitations. For example, if you're running under center FlexBone, you're probably used to having to start your pitch player early. He's got to come in motion and work back behind the quarterback so that he gets there fast enough. By backing your quarterback up into the shotgun, you're delaying the mesh just ever so slightly, which allows you to have him stationary or even not even be in the backfield at all. He can be the opposite wing. He can be in the slot. He can be coming from motion. So it's some advancements to schemes that have been really good for a long time, to veer and to belly and things that are just staples of option football. Some of these old school limitations are gone, and we'll talk more about shotgun versus under center, but there's some advantages by moving to the shotgun, which we'll talk about. We really like that by running the TEX-BONE system. Your spread gets a pass because all the prep time goes to defending option. So as you keep some spread elements and adopt some of our spread elements with your option game, what's the defense going to work on? They're going to work on defending the option. Every time you line up, no matter what the formation, what the personnel group is, the defense has to know, how do I defend the dive? How do I defend the quarterback? And how do I defend the pitch? They're not working on your 4 verticals. They're not working on your stick route pass play. They're working on that. So you're going to get simpler looks. You're going to get basic looks. And what teams are going to do a lot of times is rather than reinvent the wheel for one game to play a TEX-BONE one time in a season, they're going to take their spread philosophy and adapt it to how they cover option football. You're going to be able to predict how teams are going to play with their dive keys and their pitch keys. To stop the option defense leads to big plays and play action. Now, of course, just like all option teams, we do work a little bit of drop back. Occasionally you get into those situations where you have to do that or want to do that to your advantage. But we are a play action system. And we've got a lot of explosive play action passes that come about because the defense has to stop the option. Again, every play, how do we stop the dive? How do we stop the quarterback? How do we stop the pitch? That takes linebackers out of coverage. That takes safeties out of coverage. We'll use the corners as the pitch key sometime. That takes corners out of coverage. And that leads to some really effective play action passes. We hold our conference record in yards per attempt and yards per completion. That makes us an effective passing team. We may not throw as many passes as some teams, but when we throw it, we mean it. A big advantage is that our runs and passes look identical. Again, this makes the play action plentiful. We're going to talk tonight, and we're going to teach you our power option running play. And within the courses of the TEX-BONE, there's a course that talks about our passes off of our power option. How we make the play look like triple option, and then have passing concepts off of that. And that's the same way through the system. Is every play that we run, whether it's veer, whether it's belly, which we call our G load play, there's a pass protection that is identical to the run scheme, and it really sets up a lot of effective play action. So now that you know a little bit about what it is, Why the TEX-BONE? Why might you want to look at this as a solution for your team, whether it's a youth team or a high school team, whatever level you're coaching at? This can be a good fit for you. And let me just start off by talking about, Rick, and I give you credit for this. As you and I were fleshing out the TEX-BONE system and getting it ready for all access, you're the first one to say, Joe, I think this is a toolbox for coaches. And I think you're right. And what you'll find out is because it's two offenses in one, we have spread elements and we have option elements, you're going to be able to take the tools that you need for that game or that season and use them. You'll have different quarterbacks from year to year. You may be thinking with an option-based system, I've got to have the 4-4-40 guy that's brilliant at making reads and making decisions. That's not going to be true. You're going to be able to be effective with who you have because some years you're going to focus on some elements of the system and maybe some years other elements, but you're never going to have to scrap it. So if you're at a school, for example, that wants to put something in a middle school and run it all the way through high school, your players change a little bit, but the system can stay the same. You take the tool out of your box, it's going to be right for the players you have from game to game, from year to year, whatever your situation may dictate. I think there's a lot of advantages in game planning in the TEX-BONE that we've learned in the time we've been doing this. And we mentioned a little bit of this before. Flex-bone defenses are tough to predict. So if you're a flex-bone coach or a wing T coach, you're probably used to going through a week of preparation, but not a lot of idea on how you're going to be defended. That can be difficult because you want to train your players and you want to give them a really good idea of what's going on. Shotgun versus under center is another interesting way to look at the TEX-BONE and talk about its key attributes, but also if it's going to be the right system for you. We talked about one of the advances and one of the advantages is that you don't have to motion to get your pitch player in relationship. In fact, you can have other motions that necessarily don't take you to the ball, whereas with under center flex-bone, for example, which we grew out of, that backside wing a lot of time is coming around to be the pitch player. And guess what the defense sees? He sees that backside pitch player coming around to get in pitch phase. They start bumping and rotating. And there's counter option that can dissuade that a little bit, but we're going to get rid of that. You don't have to motion people pre-snap to get into alignment. Being in the shotgun also allows more pitch players and more formations to choose from. By being in the shotgun, the timing of that dive and the point of that dive changes just slightly enough that allows you to have a stationary slot be the pitch man or some funky motion with the wing to be a pitch man. There's a lot more options than there is with just your traditional flex-bone formation. Now, here's a trade-off. We don't feel like our dive hits much slower than being under center. In fact, it hits at almost the same time. If you watch Navy play, their dive takes place at 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. The center snaps it through his body for a yard. And the quarterback steps back a yard before he does his dive mesh. We start our quarterback at 4 yards, and he steps downhill to 2 to 2.5 yards. But that little bit of depth and the time it takes to snap the ball back has made a few option plays difficult. The midline and freeze plays, where you're reading the B-gap player or the 3 technique, we found that to be difficult. That 3 technique can really just get to your mesh point and make that play a headache. So that's a trade-off. There's plenty of triple option that we can do and that we love, but the inside B-gap player read has been a little bit difficult for us. Now, let me talk about what you do gain. We love the shotgun quarterback sneak, Rick. It's one of the biggest things that we've loved by getting into the pistol. We have such success with the 3rd and short, 4th and short goal line, and here's why we love it. One, you got the bush push right in there. If your quarterback's at the line of scrimmage, your pistol back is there to finish off and get him across the goal line. But also, the quarterback can see what's going on. And Rick, we've hit that quarterback sneak all the way out in the C-gap. When the defense really pinches on your wedge play and the end comes down, the quarterback's behind the line of scrimmage taking the snap. He can just work out to the outside and take it into the end zone. He can hit the B-gap. We really like it. We snap to our quarterback, and he's working downhill at the snap. He has just enough time to see where he goes. So we've lost our midline. We lost our freeze, which we ran early on in our flex-bone days. But what we've gained is we think a really great short yardage and red zone play. So here's a quick look at a basic power play. And, of course, its main feature is 2 lead blockers. And on the front side, you've got down blocks to create space. We've talked before about the different philosophies. For us, we're not really double teaming. We've got a 3-4 defense here just as a generic way to look at it. But you're down blocking to create space, to clear out things on the front side, and to pick up the backside linebacker. the big key to this play is that the backside guard pulls to the front side, and in doing so, he creates an extra gap. So we're looking at a guard tackle front where you have an A gap, B gap, C gap, two-man surface. When you pull that guard around, you just created a three-man surface and 4 gaps. So that's the problem for the defense in power football, is how do we get enough players to the point of attack to counter the fact that the offense has just added an extra gap. In your traditional power play, you have a fullback that blocks a defensive end, typically kicking him out to run inside. And of course, one back power now is taking away your need to block him. Now you can read him, and in the TEX-BONE, we'll read him a variety of ways. The way we'll read him tonight in our power option play is talking about making him the dive key. Over time, there's been multiple permutations of this. I'm sure most coaches are aware of it. Counter tray, where you pull both the backside guard and tackle, or H-back power, where you pull the guard and the H-back. You've got power read. We mentioned that as a one-back play. Lots of different ways to run power. It is one of the most solid football plays around. It's an element of so many different systems and philosophies, and it's a huge part of what we do with the TEX-BONE. So how is the TEX-BONE using power option? Well, again, it's the foundation of our 21st century triple option. It's the first option system to use power as the base scheme. And we do this for all the benefits that we have. We're able to get a lot of horizontal and vertical displacement. So when you're running triple option, you're running it as a true triple option play, we're going to have a dive player as your first choice. You got to create space. Power is known for creating space. And so we use our power play to create that space for our fullback, our dive player, to get through the line of scrimmage with the football. Power is good against every front. We don't have to check. We don't have to change. There's no time that you can't run power, no matter what formation that you're in. As all TEX-BONE plays are, this is a rule-based play. Your players are aggressive because the techniques are simple, the rules are simple. They're going to get off the ball and go. Pardon me. We also like this because it's easily paired with their play action and our other run plays. So coaches, here's a look at our power option scheme. We've drawn it against a 3-4. We've also drawn it against a 4-4, just so you can see some of the differences. All right, coaches, let's take a look at our power option play, and we're going to go through the fundamentals of all of our positions as we look at this. Of course, we have our down blocks on the front side. Our center is going to back block. Our backside guard is going to pull the front side linebacker. We'll also talk about our dive keys, our pitch keys, and the fundamentals of each of our players as they do each. As we look at this play versus blitz, we see that not much changes. Our front side down blocks don't change. In fact, what happens when we see blitz is our quarterback gets excited because he knows he's going to be able to get the ball to the perimeter and create some big plays. What we have drawn here is a simple edge blitz where the dive key now is going to spike inside and try to play the B gap, while our pitch player is going to play the C gap. Our tackle is not going to wait. He doesn't want to wait and take the dive key and block him. He's going to try to get going to level 2, or in the bottom picture, get going to block the 3 technique. When we look at power option against a blitz, we see that it's a big play opportunity. In fact, our quarterback, when he sees blitz, he gets excited. Our down blockers are going to execute the same thing. In our play side tackle, he's not going to wait for the dive key. He's going to get going, allowing the dive key to come down hard and cancel out the dive phase. When this happens, it's not a problem. It allows our quarterback to get to the edge of the defense and work on our pitch phase.
Coaches, Rick Stewart with All Access Coaching, where we're all about coaches helping coaches. Thanks for watching the video, and I've got to ask, please hit the subscribe and like button below. The like button really helps us with valuable data as to what videos to make and upload in the future to help you out. And the subscribe button will notify you when we upload new content to the channel. This channel is not specific to an offense or a defense. It's not even specific to Rick Stewart. I fly over the country filming college coaches and state championship coaches about their offenses, about their drills, about practices, about defense, about program building, team building, fundraising, and weight training. It's all about coaches helping coaches. So thanks for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe and like below. And as always, better today, but never as good as tomorrow.